We're going to go over how to make a chart for your data when you're following the scientific method. And let's just briefly go over the scientific method and what you're supposed to have. The first thing you're supposed to have is your materials or your supplies. And that's where you list everything that you used. Try and think of every little thing that you used because you want to make the documentation as objective as possible. And then the next part is your procedures, and this is where you list exactly what you did as objectively as possible. And it can be your steps, and sometimes you hear it called your methods. So it's your procedures are your methods, and like the first thing you would do is you put soil in your seed tray. And another part of the scientific method is discussion. And this is where you're going to discuss your thoughts about what you did. Like some of the experiments might show that the seeds deprived of light are doing better. And so you can discuss that and what you think is the reason. So your discussion is what you think is happening in your experiment, in your procedures and method. And the part we're going to talk about in this video is data and how to represent your data. And charts are a great way to represent your data. And other than this, you usually have a hypothesis. Start with a question. Then you take a guess at what the answer might be. And then you gather your materials and you follow your procedures. And you display your data and then you discuss it. So those are the steps following the scientific method, and they start with a question. And data, if you can represent it in a chart, that makes the data usually a lot easier to understand. Let me insert a blank page here. Well, and what we do to make a chart is we basically insert a chart. And all of these are different charts you can insert. And so we're going to enter the data, and then you can play with the charts and figure out which chart you think represents your data the best. And let's say that we're going to start with that bar graph. And it gives us our categories to start with. And we have 6 days, so we need to insert some days here. And you just right click with your mouse and insert, and that gives us a couple of days. I want to insert one here at the top. I'm right clicking and clicking insert so that I can write my light. It says dish on your experiment in your book on 256. And our series 1 would be our number of green. Our series 2, we could put our number of yellow. And then our series 3, we could use the percent yellow. And then for day 1, you're just basically going to count what happened with your experiment and put in the data and let the chart represent the data for us. And so on day 1, in your light dish, the dish that had light, let's say you had 4 green ones and 9 yellow ones. And then we want a percent yellow. So we're basically, you go up here in this field, this little blank field, and you put an equal sign. And then you click on your yellow, and you're going to divide it by using the backslash by the whole amount because it's 9 out of 13. I got 13 by adding 9 and 3. And then it's going to give you a percent. So 69.23%. If we want it represented as percent, we'd right click on it. We could format our cell. and click it on percent, and then it's going to give us our percent sign. So once you put in your data, your chart's going to represent, your chart will show this data that you're putting in. So day 2, let's say you had 10 green ones and 14 yellow ones, and so you would put an equals, you'd click on this, and then backslash for divide, and all total you had 24. Day 3, let's say you say 13 and 16 yellow, and it's equals. And another way you could do this is you could just do the intersection. See, that is C5. So you could do C5 divided by, and your total there would be 29. Whoops. And that gives us 55. And so put your data in. I'm just making up data. And put your formula in. So you want C6 this time to be divided by 37, because 37 is our total. This day you had 20, and this time you had 30, and we want this to represent E, whoops, where's my back? There we go. An equal sign, C7 divided by 50. And what's nice about putting that C7, say you went back and you said, oh, that was 29, it automatically changes your percent. So we had 25 and 30. And that's C8 divided by 55. Whoops, it didn't like that one. Let's call that 30 equals C8 divided by 55, 54, and let's say we had 30. Let's just pretend it ended up 30 even. Put our equals, and it would be C9 divided by 60, which is the total number of seeds we planted, so it was 50-50. And so you want to represent this by a bar graph. And you can see here, here's your bar graph from that data. And you can see the number of green and the number of yellow and then your percentage. Now you can change your charts however you want. You can make them different colors, but you can also change the type. And I like the line graphs the best. I think they are easier to read, and you want to pick one that represents your data really well. So you can see that the green was right here, the yellow was right here. They end up being at the same in the light dish, and then your percent. You can also do a pie chart. That doesn't really tell us anything, I don't think. So pick the chart that you think best represents your data. Here's a scatter chart. And remember, our percents are less than 1, and that's why they're hanging around down here. If you wanted to make them where they aren't all hanging down at 1, you could possibly multiply it by 100. You'd have to put parentheses around it. Let's see if I can get this to do that. And times 100. And then that'll change how it's represented, so that you can see that a little bit better. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to put your data in by clicking on the Insert Chart. It's going to give you an Excel worksheet. You change the headings to what you need them to be, And you're going to have to continue on and do the dark dish also. And I'm going to let you choose which chart you think best represents your data. And up here in this formula column, you can put any kind of formula you need to represent your data, as long as you start it with the equal sign. And then follow your algebraic process of operations, and you can put any data you want to in that. But what we're looking for is a percentage of yellow. And we know that that would be the yellow divided by the total number. So that's what I'm putting in there. And then I multiplied this one by 100. And I could do that to all of them if I wanted to bring that percent up. Because remember, our order of operations says do what's in parentheses first. And what does this say? Overwrite all cells. Okay, that made that one a little bit large. Okay, and so then when I look at my data, you can see that my percents are off of, I've moved them up. I basically just have applied the same number to all of them, so it moves them off of that zero line, and I can see a better idea of my percentages of yellow. So my percentage of yellow went up each day. And just play with that. Pick out the chart you like the best and the one that you think represents the data the best. Let's try that one. So our green, our yellow, and then our percent yellow. I don't like that one, because some of them show the data better than others. The green, the yellow, and the percentage. And it's easy to see that the percentage kept rising. Even the percentage was rising even though these were the same. And so you're going to represent your data. After you've got your data represented, then you'll be able to do some discussion, because it might not have turned out how you had hoped it would. I do not know why Microsoft has stopped working. It might not have turned out how you hoped or what your hypothesis was, and that happens sometimes because there's factors that we aren't accounting for. And I know we've done this experiment during one of the cold snaps, and it could be that your windowsill was just too cold and nothing was able to germinate and start growing. Or it could be that the foil covering one side of the dish, the dark side, was actually moisture and was kept warmer because of the foil, and maybe the dark dish did better. But what we're trying to show is that there are environmental issues involved in how something grows. And so just let the data represent whatever your data is. Don't try and force it. Just put it in the chart and then put it in your Excel worksheet right here, and then let the chart represent what it will. That's the end of the video.